Due to medical complications as a baby or child, we found out my husband is completely sterile. Oh, wow. We had been trying for over a year to get pregnant before we learned this was the case. Since reproduction is part of God's design for sex, how can we still feel fulfilled in our sex life without ever being able to conceive or be fruitful? That's a very hard question. Well, first of all, I'd want to say that can be a very painful thing.
Yeah.
And my heart's heavy just reading that. My instant thought is the wife needs deep wisdom from the Lord to ensure that she doesn't make her husband feel inadequate. Because a lot of a man's identity can come from his ability to be successful in the area of sexuality and both pleasing his wife and making children. And so, boy, oh boy, she's going to need a lot of wisdom from the Lord, a lot of grace to make sure her husband doesn't feel shamed or less than as a man. And this kind of, a lot of pain in life comes from things that happen to us. This pain is unique in that it's coming from something that doesn't happen. In kids that you can't have, and dreams that you had that die. And so there's a grieving process you have to go through in terms of, okay, this isn't going to be how we thought. And that is not to be brushed aside. That's very deep water. That's very real. We just prayed with a few couples this last weekend at the conference and at church on Sunday who have been trying to get pregnant for 3 years and can't and don't know why, and it's discouraging and it's disheartening. Honestly, there's been a huge uptick in it since COVID vaccines.
It's crazy. And
not to get political or even make any political statements at all. Obviously, that's not what this is. This was complications as a child. But saying as an issue at large, it's increased in our society. I was talking to a nurse yesterday, and she just hates her job and she hates her life since COVID, forced to get the vaccine, just at a hospital, it's imposed crazy rules. And her job was to take the phone calls of women who are experiencing inability to get pregnant. And like 100% of them were from women who had taken the vaccine. And it was spiking like orders of magnitude beyond what they normally see. So that's not this situation, but I'll just say that more and more people are dealing with it, it feels like, than have before. And it's very, very hard. It's a part of the fall. It's not a part of God's intention. And it's one of those things that we walk with and we carry as a wound. And God can supernaturally heal and restore, and that should be prayed for. And that should be believed for. And the Lord may not grant it. And I was just talking with someone yesterday who's going through some very deep waters, and this might not sound encouraging, but I don't know there's anything we could say that could take the sting away. Some things are just going to hurt, and some things are just going to be hard, and it's okay for them to hurt because they are hard. There's nothing wrong with you or broken with you. You don't have less faith. Over 50%. More than half of the Psalms are lamenting Psalms and mourning Psalms and questioning Psalms and why, God, have you let this happen? And so God has explicitly shown us in his word, he's not afraid of our questions. He's not afraid of our frustrations or our pain as a result of either our sin and foolishness or just the fall as a result of sin in a broken world. And so I guess there's just compassion in my heart for this person and this woman. And secondly, I would say, one of God's purposes for the gift of sex is reproduction, but it's not the only purpose for the gift of sex. We walk through 5 purposes or 6 purposes in our conference, and then our 5 byproducts. And one is for the reproducing of children, which is amazing. Another is for pleasure. Another is for oneness, and so on and so forth. And so one is for knowledge, to grow in the knowledge of the other. So you can still enjoy the gift of sex, and you should. And you can still be fruitful in your marriage, in your finances, and you may not have any physical children, but you can have dozens and hundreds of spiritual children. We met a couple this weekend. I don't think they'd mind us telling it. They came down from Alaska. They have 11 children, and all of them are adopted. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if that's because they wanted to or chose to, or because they couldn't get pregnant. But there's a lot of beauty in their family that has come out of potentially very hard circumstances that started that. And so what the enemy intends for evil, to discourage you, to belittle you, to demean you, to shame you, God can use for good. And it could, your home could be a home where, 2, 3, 4 dozens of children find a ready and willing and able father and mother. As a result of them not being able to have kids, they open their home to kids that don't have parents. Yeah. And that can be a beautiful thing too. Yeah. So I don't know if that answers this sweetheart's question, and just let you know we're praying for you and your husband. Mm-hmm. And you can't have a fulfilling sex life without being able to conceive a child, because God gave sex to a husband and wife for more than recreation or procreation.
That's right.
He gave it to us for pleasure, for comfort, for unity, for oneness. He gave it to us for knowledge. He gave it to us so we might know each other more. We might know Him more. He gave it as a bonding agent, and He gave it as a gift of pleasure to be enjoyed. So that's what I would say to her. Anything to add to that?
No, I thought that was really good. Same line of thinking that I was thinking as well. Okay. So that's good.
Hey, if you enjoyed that clip, you can click here to listen to the full podcast, or click in the link below and go wherever you listen to podcasts. And we're here, we're there, we're everywhere. Hopefully you can find us. And if you'd like some more free resources, you can head to StrongerManNation.com.